What's up, friends? It's the Nerdy Filmmaker here, and today is part 2 of 4 for the phases of indie film production. So if you're just jumping into this video, we actually had already recorded one of these videos on the development phase. And so today we're going to be talking about pre-production. Just as kind of like a caveat, this is how my films work, right? At this point in time in my career. This might change over time. It's possible you have different things that you include in different phases, but having worked on short films that range from like $2,000 budget out of pocket all the way up to like 50, and having created a digital series that was a 6-figure digital series, this is kind of where we are at this point. Take from this what you will. Let's get started. Hey, pre-production. What's pre-production? I talked about this last video. The way that, my business partner and I, my producer and I, we kind of define the difference between development and pre-production is you only go into pre-production when you have your money. In development, you are working on your script, you're working on all this kind of stuff, you're working on your budget. Your budget's going to always change, but you only enter pre-production when you actually know that you've locked the money, because now's the point where you're actually going to start promising to spend money, right? And you can only do that when you know you have the money. I'm going to say that the first thing you're working on is your budget, because depending on what money you actually got, you're going to be adjusting your budget accordingly, right? So maybe you didn't get the full amount, or maybe you got a little bit more and you can splurge in a few places. And it's actually going to continue to adjust as you go, because you might have thought that camera is going to cost you $500 a day, but maybe you were able to get it for $4. And so all of a sudden, that projected 2-day shoot of $1,000, all of a sudden now you have $200 extra that can be spent somewhere else. Cool. So the budget is a living document. You're going to be working on that throughout. So when you're in pre-production, there's a lot of work to do. Now you're going. You should probably know the general dates of when you're going to be shooting, right? Which means that one of the first things you're probably also doing is figuring out your locations, because you need to know if these locations are actually available, right? So starting conversations with locations is one of I suggest earlier things you should do in pre-production. It's something I used to leave a lot later, but it's actually one of the first things we're doing now when we enter pre-production, because locations are expensive and they're not always super accommodating because they have other things going on. So if you are shooting at a cafe and you know they're closed Sundays and that's when you're gonna shoot, the locations start to lock certain things in place. So I like to start conversations with locations as early as possible. The next thing you're gonna do is begin your cast and crew assembly, right? So casting, you're gonna wanna go into casting. Now, maybe it's only 2 people, and you actually already know who's going to act in it. It was written specifically for these people. Fine, cool. If you're going to be entering actual casting, running casting sessions, I suggest it. I'm going to be linking to a bunch of other videos in the description, and there's going to be more robust conversations about some of these topics. So yes, you're going to be running a casting session. Those are a lot of fun. I love casting sessions. That means you're going to be preparing the sides for the casting. You're going to be reaching out to people, whether on Facebook or directly to agents or whatever. And I described that whole process the way that we do it again in a prior video. So, if you need help with that, check out that video, link in the description. You're also going to be doing crew assembly. So crew assembly means that you're going to be finding people for all the roles of your film. Right? And that should include both on set and in post-production. Something that I highly suggest, not only for nice on-set work environments, but also just as a show of respect for projects, like lower indie projects to your crew, is having your department leads be a huge part in the selection process of who is working under them. So if you have a director of photography, if you have a director of photography attached to a project, they should have a heavy hand in deciding who their first AC is, because they're going to be working with them nonstop. It's actually quite beneficial to have them choose it, because they already have a great working relationship together. They're going to be faster together. Maybe it's going to be easier to get someone at your budget level if they're going to be working with their good friend. So for director of photography, that's going to be, their ACs. It's going to be their gaffer and grips. The production designer is going to be choosing their props person, their costume person, potentially their makeup person. Sometimes it's one person doing all of that, and I totally understand. A lot of the times the art department gets stumped, and it's one person doing set props and costumes. Ideally, that's not the case. You're also going to be choosing your first AD, your production manager, your PAs. If you have the budget for them, this is where you're choosing them, right? Cool. So, choosing your crew, getting them contracts. So I highly suggest everyone is under contract. It doesn't have to be a super legalese 10-page contract, but at the very least like a 1 or 2 pager, which is just saying their role, what their responsibilities are, what your responsibilities are, what they're getting paid, and when they'll get paid. Those are like the main things that people care about. And, ideally also that they agree to follow a certain code of conduct, right? We don't have a specific code of conduct at Beanduck, but ACTRA, the Actors Union, we have a code of conduct, and sometimes I just forward people to that. I'd be like, we're following this. Like, don't be a dick on set, Only I can. You've got your cast, you've got your crew, you've got your locations. You should be locking down equipment. So it's starting now. Once you have your shoot dates, it might be an ongoing thing where your DP is going to email them and be like, actually, we want to add this to our reservation. Actually, we found that we're not going to need this thing anymore, so let's remove that. And hey, I keep talking about, when your shoot dates are. What your schedule is. You don't know that until you have a shot list, right? So if I can say that one of the most important things for you to do as a director is to make your goddamn shot list. You got to do it. And once you've done your shot list, that's going to help you make your schedule. And it's not only just your schedule for the full shoot in terms of what days you're going to be shooting, but what scenes are you going to be shooting on those days, and then what is the order of those scenes, and then what are the order of the shots, and then when is lunch, all these things. And if you're changing locations, when are you changing locations? All of these different things really can only start once you have your shot list. You can make kind of vague guesses. Really, it cannot get specific and accurate until you have your shot list done. Once again, I have, I believe, 2 videos, one on shot listing and one on scheduling. Again, I'm leaving them in the description. But those are, as a director, you don't need to be the one calling to reserve equipment. That could be your producer, that could be your DP. You're not the one necessarily making the contracts. You should be focusing on your shot list, gosh darn it, as early as possible. So as you can see, there's a lot of stuff happening. I talked about crew assembly. They have all of their own stuff to do too. So that's why you need to get that stuff done early, because, once you've cast it, they got to start rehearsing. So you have to have rehearsals. Once you've got your crew together, the costume person needs to start fitting them for costumes, or talking about what they're going to pull from their closet and what they're going to have to rent. So there's tons of things for each individual crew member to be doing during pre-production. So the earlier you can get them attached, and the earlier you can let them know how much money they have to spend on costumes, props, set design, all that stuff, the better. Pre-production is not a 1-week phase, right? It should be the busiest, and I don't want to say the longest phase because development can take years, but pre-production needs to be longer than production. It needs to be longer than post-production. A great pre-production sets you up for success. There's a lot of stuff not listed here, and that's just because that's the responsibility of your crew members, right? But you again, I'm assuming that you are a filmmaker, which usually means writer, director, potentially producer. These are the things, the main things you need to be working on and focusing on. And while your crew focuses on their pre-production, and you're going to be involved with all of that, right? They need you. They need you to guide them, all right? So that's the kind of great summary of pre-production. There's so much I didn't talk about, but I hope that was helpful. Don't start pre-production until you have your money. All right, that's my number one suggestion. So it would suck if you don't get all your money and you're already halfway through and you've already spent the money that you've gotten and now you can't finish the project. That would not be good. So if you have any questions about pre-production, let me know in the comments. And we're going to be talking about production next, which is going to be an interesting one. I don't quite know how I'm going to talk about that one because I feel like it's straightforward, but we'll give it a shot anyway. All right, I'll see you on the next one, friends. Bye now.